Live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Bringing you the news from Sri Lanka and across the world, it's your national news broadcast on Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. I'm Siobhan Pereira.
And I'm Kasini Balachandra Adhikari. We start off with the Katia headlines for tonight.
The 42% tariff imposed on Sri Lanka by the US slashed to 30%. Reduction of tariff is optimistic for export industries of the country, economic specialists forecast. A special discussion at the Presidential Secretariat regarding new tariffs. Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa is holding a special discussion with the USA ambassador. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board requests the general public to use water sparingly. A national-level mechanism in treating autistic children. Prehistoric era, tiled caves found in Sri Lanka.
We move on to those and other stories in detail in your top local story tonight. Several important events in the Buddha Sasana, including the preaching of Damsak Pavatum Sutra by the Lord Buddha, had been recorded on the Asada full moon Poya day.
Many religious programs were conducted in temples throughout the country, marking this Poya day today. According to the Sasana history, conceiving of Bosat Siddhartha, of Queen Mahamaya Devi, the birth of Prince Rahula, and the renunciation of Prince Siddhartha had occurred on this day. It has also been recorded that the breaking of arrogance of the Tirthakas, performance of miraculous Yama Mahapelahara, preaching of Abhidharma to deity Matru Divyarajya by the Gautama Buddha also occurred on Asala full moon Poya day. Another important incident had been holding of the first Sangayana in the Rajagaha city 3 months after Pirinirvana of the Lord Buddha. Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation conducted the Asala full moon Poya day program titled Saddharma Varsha at the Samanalathana Aranya Senasana in Deyattakandiya today. The religious program was live telecast on the national television. Religious activities were conducted under the guidance of the chief incumbent of the Aranya, Venerable Hanguranketa Sumanananda Thera. Special religious programs have been organized in the major places of worship to mark the Asala Poya day. Large crowds were gathering in the Anuradhapura sacred site since this morning. The historic temple of the Tooth in Kandy was also full of devotees for religious activities.
President Donald Trump has imposed new tariffs on 7 countries, including Sri Lanka. Under these new measures, the import tariff on Sri Lanka, which was previously at 44%, will be reduced to 30%. President Trump sent tariff letters to 7 small trade partners of the United States. According to these letters, import tariffs will be imposed on goods from other countries as well. Under Trump's new tariffs, the 30% duty is expected on imports from Libya, Iraq, Algeria and Sri Lanka. Imports from Moldova and Brunei will face a 25% tariff, while goods from the Philippines will be subject to a 20% tariff. These tariffs will take effect from the 1st of August. The United States Commerce Department reported that last year the US had trade deficits amounting to $1.4 billion with Algeria, $5.9 billion with Iraq and $900 million with Libya. Trade deficits with the Philippines stood at $4.9 billion, with Sri Lanka at $2.6 billion, with Brunei at $111 million and with Moldova at $85 million. None of the countries affected by these tariffs are major industrial competitors of the United States. Many economic analysts warn that the imposition of these tariffs could worsen inflation in the US and may also slow down American economic growth. President Donald Trump began the tariff announcement process last Monday by imposing a 25% import tariff on the two major US trade partners, Japan and South Korea. Meanwhile, Trump reportedly sent a letter to Brazil's President Lula da Silva indicating plans to impose a 50% tariff on Brazilian products. This move is expected to further escalate tariff dispute with South American countries.
A special discussion regarding the new tariffs imposed by the United States was held today between President Anurukumara Dissanayake and the group of representatives in Sri Lanka at the Presidential Secretariat. The discussion was joined by Minister Dr. Anil Jayantha Fernando, Secretary to the Ministry of Finance Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma, Governor of the Central Bank Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, Secretary to the Ministry of Trade K.A. Vimalenthi Raja and Senior Economic Advisor to the President Tuminda Hulangamua.
The Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma, says that Sri Lanka has obtained the highest tariff reduction among the countries which conducted discussions regarding the raising of tariffs by the USA. This has been a tariff raise not just for Sri Lanka but globally for all countries. The Secretary to the Ministry of Finance made this observation participating in a special media discussion held today at the Department of Government Information.
Now Sri Lanka need to ensure the policy consistency that is prevailing now. Second one, we are trying to see that coming out with the national tariff policy that is coming out, remove all these all bias, export bias, those things will be addressed. And beyond that, most of the time, the Sri Lankan industries and the export competitiveness is affected by some sort of a non-tariff barriers that is being addressed in Sri Lanka. So we are coming out from the compartmentalized thinking pattern to some sort of a national and a global framework within which most of the barriers will be addressed. So that will be facilitate Sri Lanka can be transformed into some sort of attractive investment destination, which would facilitate us to have expanding our export basket, and in numbers as well as in quantity. So that is approach is way forward that we are working on that.
The position has been shared. Our approach is to engage continuously in the discussion, in the negotiation. There's a time period that has been provided until 1st August, and until such time the tariff has been identified as the existing 10% will continue as it is. So our approach is to make use of this time, this space, to the best possible advantage of Sri Lanka and to have a mutual beneficial outcome both for USA and for Sri Lanka as well. So our response is to continue to engage, assess situation, get the input of other stakeholders, in particularly major exporters to the US market, and by allowing market access to Sri Lanka, the partners who will be impacted from that angle. So look at those areas and to model a solution then that will to be offered to them. So that's the broader approach. The intention is this entire process from the US side, the expectation is to reduce some of the tariffs applicable in one angle when it comes to tariff, para-tariff also, and to very important component is simplify the process that is available. Reduce the time taken to implement and process some of those engagements, or clearance at the board agencies will be much faster. So it is not just focused on just one item related to tariff per se. It is much broader to make sure our openness in the way how we do things here, simplify, removal of barriers that we have. So it's a much broader discussion instead of just focusing only on tariff items. The impact we have to look at from the wider global impact that has been created through this arrangement. As I said, it is not targeting Sri Lanka. This is a global situation. International organizations have predicted this will have an impact and impact on the growth of the global economy also. So the spillover effect of that one, it will be Sri Lanka also have to go through that spillover impact to Sri Lanka. And our view is, even though from the global angle there is a certain slowdown that has been predicted, as a country, Sri Lanka is coming up compared to where we were as a nation. So a lot of hope and expectation based on the arrangements we are putting in place.
We are satisfied with in terms of competitiveness, we are satisfied where we are now, and progress we have made from 44%, 34%, I think we are satisfied with that, but we need to make more progress. That's why we continue to engage with them. Increase more trade between two and have more market access for US and us. That what are the products that we can import more from the US? What are the products that we can export more to the US? On that basis, we have looked at in the consultation with the industry, we have looked at the various sectors, and we have in the discussion of whether there's a possibility of opening up the market for those products for both sides. That is what that's going on, because our intention to reduce the trade deficit and have a good fair negotiation and intention in the right direction, that this is a recognition of that effort. This is why, if you can see, some countries actually they have increased reciprocal tariff. So some countries they have reduced it. For us, they have reduced it highest margin. Discussion when IMF mission was here in early April, during the period they were actually here. At the beginning, there are a lot of concerns whether there will be a significant impact if 44% tariff was imposed. Obviously, we discussed certain options, alternatives that we can take on, but because of the uncertainty and also later postpone of this thing, we basically worked on the basis this will continue for some time. So then until that time, we have made the assumption status quo will remain. As a result, we discussed the overall macro outlook and the assistance access on that basis. But if the situation is going to be changed in any direction, obviously we will have option to discuss with the IMF what are the other options. If there's any additional financial assistance or program modalities review, that is an open option. It's like every review, it's an opportunity for us to negotiate based on the circumstances that we foresee in the next 6 months. So that option is open, but so far, in our negotiation, we have not taken into any adverse impact as a result of this, because this was a temporary situation. We wait and it's too early. Nothing has been agreed or pledged so far. It's a process of negotiation where we offer what we can offer and they offer what they can offer. And they ask, these are the regulations, you need to relax. We say whether we agree or not. This is a process of discussion taking place already still, and ultimately in the end, we can come to agreement. So these are we can agree, this we can agree, and we all can come to a kind of a sort of a solution. Then only there will be an agreement.
Mentioned, we can continue. It will be 30% out to 31st August if you don't get anything in the interim. But the discussions are ongoing, continuing, right? So there is no need for an immediate response. We'll assess the situation and then respond accordingly. These kind of advantage, disadvantage will prevail forever between countries. But in spite of that, we have been able to grow. For example, our garment trade, in spite of differences, we are able to grow. So there are pluses and minuses in the environment that we operate in. So that those things will prevail, as the Secretary mentioned. Things that are within the government's control, we are trying to address and try to reduce the electricity costs, etc. Because even today, certain items probably are cheaper in terms of resources in India or raw material, but we manufacture.
That reduction of 44% trade tariff imposed on Sri Lanka by the US up to 30% is a positive expectation for the export industry of the country. They expressed these views at an inquiry made by the national television today.
The reduction from 44% tariff, reciprocal tariff applied by the US to Sri Lanka, which was announced on the 2nd of April, the reduction to 30% is a welcome first step in our view, because you've seen a lot of other countries such as Bangladesh, Cambodia, and even Thailand, some of these countries are not really seeing too much of a reduction from what was announced in the early part of April. So that's, I think, a positive first step. But however, there are other competitor countries in the region, in particular the likes of India and Vietnam, which compete on similar items like apparel, like rubber, which are to get lower rates. So for example, Vietnam has got 20% and India is expected to sign a trade deal as well with a lower rate than what Sri Lanka has established. So it's important between now and when the agreement or the rate will come into effect, most likely on the 1st of August, as per the latest developments. It's important to use the next 3 weeks wisely, so that the negotiating team is able to make the case for the reduction to come much lower, to even 20%, best case even 10%, so that our rates or our goods when it's exported are competitive, because it's important from the buyers for a lot of our exports to the US for us to be competitive, and that confidence being provided. So we hope to see the Ceylon Chamber and other trade bodies hope to get involved in these discussions and be able to assist the negotiating team in this endeavor.
Sri Lanka export more than 23% to America. But in our imports, America is not an important country. Number one country China. But in terms of export, America is number one, Western Europe. That's why American arguments clearly indicate that the trade between Sri Lanka and America is favorable to Sri Lanka, not to America. So now America demands Sri Lanka also should import more from America to reduce the trade balance. So otherwise, America will increase the tariff further. Sometime America will maintain this 30% continuously. So who are our competitors? Vietnam, Bangladesh, India. So when you compare all these three countries, American consumer can feel that compared to Sri Lankan garments, Vietnamese and Indian garments are cheap. Then they will purchase more and more Vietnamese garments and Indian garments. Then there will be an impact on Sri Lankan economy. So then we will lose a lot of employment opportunities. Our GDP also will come down. Our growth rate will be affected. So Sri Lanka should negotiate with America further, and we have to import. So when America retaliates, there will be a huge impact on Sri Lankan economy. So Sri Lankan government should negotiate further and further to reduce American tariff on Sri Lankan export, particularly garments. At the same time, we have to import more from America, particularly wheat flour, to reduce the trade deficit between Sri Lanka and America. So this is the solution we can propose at the moment.
American President Donald Trump has raised imposed tariff. Decision was taken in April 2025. As a result of that, US decided to impose 44% tariff on Sri Lankan exports to the American market. However, Sri Lankan government took quick initiatives. As a result of that, now the US has reduced tariff to 30%. This is a great achievement. However, this will affect adversely to Sri Lankan exports to the American market. Nearly 40% of Sri Lankan apparel goes to US market. Now, as a result of high tariffs, retail prices of Sri Lankan exports, especially apparels in US market, will increase. As a result of demand for Sri Lankan exported apparels will go down. On the other side, tariff has not imposed equally to all countries. Our competitors like Vietnam, their tariff is 20%, so that we have to compete with them as well. In all, as a result of US new tariff policies, among others, apparel sector will be affected adversely. It is estimated that we are going to lose nearly $300 million as a result of new tariff policies, similarly losing jobs, and also some estimate would suggest that Sri Lankan GDP will reduce by 1.2% as a result of new tariff policies.
Now, on the same note, the United States has unveiled a new round of tariffs targeting 8 countries with import duties ranging from 20% to 50%, citing political and economic concerns. The move has triggered diplomatic tensions and market fluctuations. President Donald Trump announced the tariff measures via social media, issuing formal letters to Brazil, Sri Lanka, Iraq, Libya, Algeria, Moldova, Brunei, and the Philippines. Each country was assigned a specific tariff rate.
Brazil was assigned the highest rate of 50% tariff on all imports following a public dispute between Trump and Brazilian President Lula da Silva. Trump leaders cited Brazil's treatment of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is currently on trial, as a key reason. In response, Lula condemned the action, referencing Brazil's economic reciprocity law and announcing proportional countermeasures. The Brazilian real and local markets fell sharply, impacting firms like Embraer and Petrobras. The Foreign Ministry also summoned US diplomats. In Southeast Asia, the Philippines received a 20% tariff rate. Economic Secretary Frederick Go expressed concern but emphasized ongoing negotiations toward a potential free trade agreement. Talks with US officials are expected next week, and Manila is seeking to lower the rate before it takes effect on the 1st of August. The United States remains a top trading partner for the Philippines, accounting for 16% of its exports this year. Sri Lanka, Algeria and Iraq were each assigned a 35% tariff rate, while Brunei, Libya and Moldova received a 25% rate. No official statements from Brunei, Moldova, Algeria, Iraq or Libya have been published. President Trump defended the tariffs as a response to grave injustices, though specific grievances varied by country.
And we move on with more local news. Chief Executive Officer and economist at Advocata Institute of Sri Lanka, Dhananath Fernando, said that the reduction of tariff from 44% to 30% is optimistic, so that the trade competition with the other countries has also been eased. He spoke to the national television over the phone today.
30% tariff is better than 44%, obviously. However, 30% is still too high for us to be very competitive, especially on the markets that we operate in. And there can be about 3 rounds of impact. First is because of 30%, and there are multiple other tariff rates across the border, across the world. So overall, the global demand will come down because all the prices will go up in the US market. And as a result, when the overall demand comes down, it will have an impact definitely on the global economic growth. As a result, our exports will be impacted. That's round number 1. Round number 2 is with the 30% tariff, our products will also be quite uncompetitive. And as a result, the prices will go up and the demand will come down. And some products may not be competitive as it was before. At the same time, the third point is when this 30% tariff and different tariffs goes for different countries, they will also react to it and they will also have their market shocks. So as a result, it can have a third round of impact for industries even like tourism, because then when their markets get contracted, their people will not be able to spend money. So as a result, there can be a third round of impact. But we also have to observe what is the tariff rates that our competitors have received. So in that sense, Bangladesh has received 35%, which is a higher tariff than us. So we have a competitive advantage there. But when it comes to Vietnam, they seems to have received a 20% tariff, which is, I think, properly yet to be announced. But President Trump announced that they made a deal with Vietnam. So 20% would be very difficult to compete because we are competing for the same basket. And we have to wait and see. For India, it says they will receive about 25-26% compared to since the last round also they got a 26% tariff rate, that India will also have an advantage. So on competition basis, it's not in the best shape for us. But at the same time, for rubber products like countries like Thailand, they have received a fairly higher tariff rate. So on that front, there are pros and cons. I think what is important is what is the next measure that we are going to take. So ideally, we should try to negotiate again because there is still 1st of August, there's time. There is still room for another round of negotiation and maybe try to bring it down for 20%. That's number 1 measure. Number 2 measure is we have to also, there are a lot of trade barriers for our exporters internally. So if we can actually ease it off, if we can fairly amend some of the regulations, para tariffs and custom procedures, that will have a better benefit for the exporters. That's round number 2. The solution number 2. Solution number 3 is, it seems this tariff is going to be a continuous thing. It seems President Trump or the other countries will use tariffs as a tool to negotiate with countries. So that bad precedent has been set. So we should invest our time and resources to have a better, a proper, well-trained trade negotiation team to negotiate this constantly. That's more like short-term, medium-term, but in long-term, we also need to look at how we can diversify for other markets and how we can sign more trade agreements, free trade agreements with other countries, and slowly look at India and diversifying towards India and other regional markets. So that's how I see it at the moment.
The Chamber of Commerce says the reduction in the tariff rate from 44 to 30% is a constructive and important first step by the government towards bringing Sri Lanka's tariff structure for exports to the US closer to that of regional competitors. In a statement, it is also stated to encourage continued engagement with the US administration to secure a further reduction by 1st of August. The Chamber of Commerce said that the progress in achieving a further reduction will be critical towards strengthening Sri Lanka's position in the scheme market, maintaining buyer confidence and supporting sustained trade growth over a long term. The statement of the Chamber stands ready to support the government's efforts in this regard through constructive dialogue, industry feedback and coordinated advocacy. More stories coming right after this break. Stay tuned.
Prima Stella. අපි හැමෝම කැමති.
Live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
And in more local stories, a meeting between Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa and the US Ambassador in Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, was held at the ministry today.
They have held wider discussions regarding the supply of pharmaceuticals and health services in Sri Lanka. The US Ambassador has agreed to provide essential medicines and surgical equipment to Sri Lanka up to a certain extent through the donors in the USA. They also held lengthy discussions regarding the current condition of Sri Lanka's free health service and media sector and the future development of the two sectors. The minister explained the measures taken by the government to control diseases by implementing special community awareness programs on health and safety measures. He also enlightened the US envoy on preparing the short and long-term plans to control and prevent dengue and chikungunya. The minister described the fact that the government has implemented a special program to obtain essential medicine and to ease the shortage of pharmaceuticals in the state hospital network on certain instances.
The National Water Supply and Drainage Board informs the public to use water sparingly since the water levels of the reservoirs are receding. The board points out that the consumption of water has also gone up due to the prevailing heat conditions. Chairman of the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, Chandana Bandara, said that there is no decrease of purifying water. However, the water consumption has increased up to 10% at present. This extra demand can be provided by the board. If the demand increases further, there will be a problem in continuous supply. Therefore, the board requests the public to use water sparingly, considering the matters as a national need.
In very encouraging news, the government is moving forward with plans to establish a national network of daycare and therapy centers for children with autism spectrum disorder and other neurodevelopment conditions. Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanat Kumar Nayaka, has directed officials to prepare a detailed concept proposal within 2 weeks following discussions held yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat. This initiative, championed by the President Andrew Kumara Dissanayaka, aims to create a coordinated system involving multiple ministries and government departments with the Presidential Secretariat overseeing the implementation. The program will utilize a 250 million rupee allocation from this year's budget channeled through the Ministry of Women and Child Affairs to district-level administrators. Key aspects of the plan include developing specialized human resources, creating a scientifically validated care model, and establishing clear operational guidelines. Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanat Kumar Nayaka, has directed officials to prepare a detailed concept proposal regarding the program within 2 weeks. Senior government figures attending the planning session included Kapila Janaka Bandara, Senior Additional Secretary to the President, and officials of the Women's and Child Affairs, Social Security and Community Infrastructure and Health and Mass Media Ministries. Marking a significant milestone in the country's research and development sector, a new committee was established for the first time in the country to identify and prioritize national research needs. The primary objective of this committee is to classify various research initiatives being conducted nationwide according to their priority based on national development goals and national requirements. The committee is co-chaired by Professor Gomika Udugam Surya, Senior Advisor to the President on Science and Technology, and Professor Rohan Fernando, Chairman of the National Science and Technology Commission under the Ministry of Science and Technology. It comprises 20 leading experts from diverse fields. It also aims to encourage the allocation of national budget funds for the research and development sector based on research priorities to ensure efficient utilization of these funds. A discussion on the implementation of the Kalutara Urban Development Plan was held yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat under the patronage of Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanat Kumar Nayaka. Kalutara is considered as a city with high potential on industrial and economic development. The discussion was focused on ensuring the effective implementation of the Kalutara Urban Development Plan.
8 persons were injured when a van skidded into a precipice early in the morning today at Despond area on the Hatton-Nuwara main road. According to police, the injured have been admitted to the Nuwara District Hospital. A van carrying a group of youth from Mathura to Nuwara on a tour faced this accident around 5 a.m. today. The vehicle skidded off the road and fell into a precipice of about 70 feet deep. According to the police, the accident occurred due to the driver falling asleep. The accident scenery was recorded on a CCTV camera of a nearby shop. 3 persons were injured when an SLTB bus collided with a van at the 6th milepost Taldena on the Badula-Mahayangana road. 2 persons out of the injured have been members of the same family. According to reports, the driver lost the control due to a brake failure of the SLTB bus. The injured have been admitted to the Badula Teaching Hospital. A tree has fallen onto a bus carrying a group of Chinese tourists parked near the Elephant Orphanage in Pinnavala. There were no passengers inside the bus during the collapse of the tree. According to our correspondent, the tourists were provided with another bus by the Rambukana police for their travel convenience.
Professor of the Peradeniya Veterinary Medical Faculty, Ashoka Dangola, says that the lying stance of Bhartiya the tusker is to be changed. He added that the mode of operation is being observed by now. Professor of the Peradeniya Veterinary Medical Faculty, Ashoka Dangola, said that there is a marked improvement in the condition of the tusker and it has also been decided to change the course of the food provided. Treatment with antibiotics will also be continued. The blood circulation of the tusker is accumulated at a certain area of the body since it is lying on the side touching the ground. It has also been decided to turn the jumbo using a net without using belts so that the blood circulation will return to normal. And now for a few more local news items in brief. Minister Bimal Ratnaik inspected the Mattal International Airport premises this morning. Attention was paid to the development of the airport and the minister held a friendly discussion with the employees of the airport later. A discussion was held yesterday at the Ministry of Power regarding a draft bill related to the restructuring of the Ceylon Electricity Board and the process connected with it. The discussion was held between the minister and representatives of trade unions. Rights for the employees and the safeguarding of privileges and a number of other areas were also discussed. 4 persons have been taken into custody by the Meegoda police in connection with shooting of a person named Kotahera Podda and looting of vehicles. It has also been revealed that they were close accomplices of the organized criminal Lalit Kannangara, who is hiding in Dubai. The police said that they are being interrogated under the detention orders for 7 days after being produced before the Home Agama Magistrates Court. Pumping of water from the Singimale reservoir has been temporarily stopped by the Hatton Water Supply Board. Recently, a student drowned in this reservoir and died, according to our correspondent. This decision has been taken after an inspection of water conducted by health sections, including Ambagamo Provincial Medical Officer of Health. An all-night Pirit ceremony was held at the college auditorium yesterday to commemorate the 99th anniversary of German national Marie Museus Higgins, founder of Museus College in Colombo. It was held under the patronage of chief incumbent of the Navakoralaya Colombo of the Malvata chapter Rajakiya Pandit Venerable Dr. Kirinde Assaji of Gangaramaya and other venerable members of the Mahasangha. An almsgiving was also held today, organized by the Buddhist Association of the college. The President of the Board of Trustees Ajit D'Souza, Chief Manager Dinesh D'Souza, Principal Sanjeevani Bandara, staff members of the college along with a large gathering attended the occasion.
The vast invitation ceremony of Lankarama Vihara, Los Angeles in the USA was organized recently. It was organized under the patronage of Most Venerable Talangama Devananda Naik Thera, Chief Sanganaik of Central and Western States of the USA, Chief Incumbent of Ohio Maitri Meditation Center and the Chief Incumbent of Lankarama and Indiana Vihara of USA, offering of Vasana robes, Atavisi Sambuddha Puja, Ashirvada Puja and other programs were also held on this occasion. Foreign news on the other side of this break. Foreign news tonight, a cargo ship in the Red Sea was sunk following an attack by Yemen's Houthi militants. The European Naval Operations Command reported that 6 crew members were rescued while 3 others lost their lives in the incident. The attacked vessel was the Eternity Sea, operating under Greek control and flying the Libyan flag. At the time of the attack, there were 25 crew members on board. The ship sustained significant damage and all communications were disrupted, according to the United Kingdom's Maritime Trade Operations Agency. Authorities say the attack happened last night during ongoing rescue and investigation operations. The vessel was en route to Israel when it was struck by the Houthi militants, who are believed to be supported by Iran. The US Embassy in the Yemen stated that many of the rescued crew members have been taken hostage.
The Sri Lankan cricket team has been in stellar form in the past month or so. Now, the first T20 international cricket match between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh is now being played at the Pallekele International Cricket Stadium. Batting first, Bangladesh scored 154 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in 20 overs. Sri Lanka, winning the toss, invited Bangladesh to bat first. Parvez Hussain and Tanzid Hassan opened the innings for the Bangladeshi team, and Hassan was out for 16 runs when the first wicket and partnership was at 46. Parvez Hussain top scored with 38 runs, while Mohammad Naeem made a valuable contribution of 32 runs. Mehdi Hasan Miraz scored 29 runs. In bowling, Mahesh Dikshana claimed 2 wickets, while Nuwan Tushara, Tasun Shanak and Jeffrey van der Say shared a wicket each. In reply, chasing a target of 155 runs, Sri Lanka were 114 runs for the loss of 1 wicket in 11 overs when the last reports came in. Well, that was a look at your news here at Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. I have been Siobhan Pereira together with Kasuni Balachandra Adhikari. Wish you a pleasant evening ahead.
Good night.